What's up, guys? In this video I want to talk about the new Carrera and Carrera S with the turbocharged engines and give you my thoughts and impressions based on the reviews that I've seen and read. And this is from my perspective as a current owner of a naturally aspirated 911, which you just got a little taste of in that opening intro there. That engine note from the naturally aspirated engine is just amazing. Now, full disclosure, I've not actually driven the new turbocharged Carreras for myself yet to really see what it's like. But based on the reviews, I can form some opinions about the new car. And I want to get your feedback in the comments below. So please leave me your thoughts about the new Carreras. And I just want to pose the question, should I consider purchasing one of these new cars? Or should I hold with what I have now? What I have now is the 2015 Carrera GTS. And one of the major features that the GTS has as standard is the engine power kit. So it adds 30 horsepower to the standard Carrera S. So it takes the horsepower up to 430. But the interesting thing is the torque level remains the same at 325 pound-feet of torque. And peak torque occurs up high in the rev range, something like 5,700 RPM. So this naturally aspirated engine is very rev happy and has a really good linear power curve. So as the revs increase, the power increases. And it just loves to be in the upper rev range. Another major difference between the GTS and a standard Carrera S is the GTS has the wide body style, whether it has four-wheel drive or two-wheel drive. My GTS is a two-wheel drive car, but it still has the wide body rear fenders from the four-wheel drive 911. It also has other performance things that's standard, such as PASM is standard. It has larger section rear tires, 305 20-inch tires, which are wider than the standard Carrera S. It also has some other cosmetic changes, such as the aero kit front fascia. It has the sports design mirrors. Of course, it has the 20-inch center lock alloy wheels. Oh, I mentioned PASM earlier. PASM is the Porsche active suspension management system, and in normal mode it's in comfort mode, but when you hit the Sport or Sport Plus button, it firms up the suspension at each wheel. It's an electronic damping system that kind of evaluates the conditions at all time and continually adjusts the damping force at each wheel to improve your performance. And some other things too, like the interior is upgraded to feature the GTS interior, which has deviated leather stitching everywhere, Alcantara on the seats and other surfaces you touch. The GTS also has a lot of extra, well, I shouldn't say extra, it has more black trim, which kind of sets it apart from a standard Carrera, such as the black wheels, the black louvers over the engine cover, the black housings around the front headlights, and the quad black exhaust tips, among other things. So that's how my 2015 GTS is set up. So let's talk about the new car. Most of the reviews have come back very, very positive, which I'm glad to hear and see. Because I do love Porsche. I think they engineer great drivers' cars, and it's great to see that continue. The new turbocharged Carrera and Carrera S have smaller engines, yet more power than the previous iterations of them. And the other thing that was interesting is a lot more torque, which the reviewers say makes the engine a lot more usable. You don't have to quite rev it out in order to ride that surge of torque. What's impressive is that peak torque is available so low, like at 1700 RPM or 2000 RPM. That's very low. With that much torque down low, you don't need to rev out the engine in order to access the power. So the car surges forward without the need to downshift so much in order to get the revs up to get into the power band, because the power band is so low. In fact, some reviewers said that with the increased torque so low, you don't have to shift that much at all. No matter what gear you're in, you just mash the pedal and you're quickly going. Some reviewers note that there is a whiff of turbo lag. When you mash the pedal, the car does take a beat before the car really gets going. It doesn't appear to be a big problem. It's not like cars in the past, you know, in the 70s or 80s, where you mash the pedal and you just kind of sitting there waiting for the power to come on, and then when it comes on so strong and violent that it shoves you back. But there's that delay of those old turbo cars that was actually kind of annoying. So the new Carrera doesn't quite suffer from the old school turbo lag, but there is a whiff of lag. It does take a beat to get you going. The exhaust sound from the turbo engine isn't that bad. It may not be quite as thrilling as the naturally aspirated exhaust note, but Porsche has done a really good job to try to maintain that characterful sound that the flat six makes, so that's good. By comparison, you know, what I experienced with my naturally aspirated 3.8 engine is that the engine loves to rev. So having an engine that revs so freely enables you to get the engine speed up very quickly and into the sweet spot of the power and the torque. And the engine likes to be in that sweet spot and sounds glorious when it's there. So obviously my car doesn't have the torque that the new car does, but the engine revs so freely you're able to access the torque that it does have in an enjoyable way because of the engine sound, and it loves to rev, and also it just spins up so quickly that you're able to access the torque very easily. So I'm glad to hear that the new turbocharged Carreras are being so well received. And the other change was the user interface for the controls, radio, and all of those kinds of things. Navigation is much better in the new car versus what I have here. And I have to admit, my user interface is a little antiquated. Doesn't have the pinch and zoom. I hear the new driver management system is more like an iPhone in its use. And actually, speaking of iPhones, use Apple CarPlay. So my interface doesn't have that. It's still usable. It's still Bluetooth and has navigation, but the interface is not as slick as the new car. So that's also a big improvement. So that's good. I'm really happy for Porsche. I'm glad that the marque continues to do good things with their flagship car. I call it the flagship car, the 911. It's the icon of Porsche. Having said all that, I'm still happy with my 2015 car. I'm still happy that I bought a naturally aspirated 3.8 liter 6-cylinder engine. The GTS, as you know, has more power than the Carrera S. GTS has, I believe it's 430 horsepower. But most of the torque is way up high. It's in the 5,000s. And even in my spirited drive today, in these back roads, no problem, you know, getting the car to move swiftly. And the other thing that I love is the sound. There's nothing like a naturally aspirated engine as far as the sound. pleasure of driving for me is not just straight out times, because I'm not on a track most of the time. It's the experience of driving. You know, it's the feeling the G-forces, synchronizing the switchbacks and getting the car to rotate the way you want along those turns. So for me, it's not always about straight out speed and how fast you can go. I do enjoy driving swiftly and fast. Believe me, I love that too. But there's the whole feeling of driving. It's enjoying the great roads. It's enjoying the great scenery. It's a sense of escape that I enjoy, and leaving your troubles behind. And I think this 911 provides that total immersion, that total experience of being totally comfortable in the car you're driving in, and you're able to drive that quickly, but yet nothing getting in between you and the enjoyment of experiencing the drive. So yes, the new 911 may have more torque, so it has more grunt down low, which means you have more ability to get yourself off the line without revving the car out so much. But there's something about the naturally aspirated engine with all the power up high that I kind of enjoy. It's that analog kind of feel about it. It's not so digital, if that makes sense at all. You're involved with this machine, and I enjoy that. You know, I noticed something interesting about some of the specification of the new 2017 Carrera S. There's a lot of similarities in the spec with the 2015 GTS. It's almost like some of the things that they did to enhance and make a GTS just simply carried over to become standard equipment on the Carrera S. For example, the wider section rear 20-inch tires, now the Carrera S rolls on 305s, and that was the upgraded standard fitment on the GTS. PASM is now standard on Carrera S, and I don't believe, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe it was standard equipment on the Carrera S in the past. It was always an option, but not standard. And of course, with the GTS, PASM came standard. So it's interesting that maybe, was the GTS almost like an early prototype or primer for the next generation Carrera S, where they could upgrade some of the chassis components before moving into the new car. I don't know, maybe that's overstating it a bit, but it was interesting for me to see how some of those kind of chassis tweaks for the GTS carried over to become standard on the Carrera S. I just thought that was interesting. I think the new car also has the option to get rear wheel steering, which that's an interesting option. I wonder what that's like to drive. I will say this, I would like to test drive the new Carrera S with the turbo, just to experience it, just to see what it's like for myself. Again, I'm basing all of my opinions on my knowledge of the car that I have, as well as what I've read and seen in the reviews for the new car. But there's nothing like experiencing the drive for yourself. Well, those are my initial thoughts about the new Carreras with the turbo engine. But as you know, Porsche has been working with turbo technology for a long time with their high-end big turbo. The turbo with the capital T, that super fast one. So they've got plenty of experience dealing with turbo technology. So I guess I'm not surprised that the Carrera turbos are so well received because Porsche is so experienced at it. So there you go. But just to wrap up, I want to say that I am incredibly happy with my own car. I know I have the first generation 991 with the naturally aspirated engine, as you know. I'm very pleased with this car. I continue to be so impressed with it and so happy to own one. So let me know what you think, guys. Should I keep the car that I have, or should I investigate buying the new Carrera S? There is also the new GTS in the works. So what will that be like? So that's yet another question. So anyway, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.